Recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
You don't know what it sounds like though, Dave, do you?
We'll never know. No, this is always just for you, Sophie, because I always get to hit record because I'm a control freak.
It makes me feel special, so it's fine.
So this week was my choice, and I picked the 2016 film called The Monster.
The Monster.
The Monster. And again, I like to hand over to Dave to describe the films we watch because he remembers things often in a more linear fashion than I do.
Dave does like a very good like rundown, and I feel like when we interject with like little bits and pieces, that could be helpful or not helpful. But I feel like on average, you definitely remember things better than I do, Dave.
Yeah.
So it's called The Monster. It's a film about, spoiler, a monster, a literal monster. Yep. But also some metaphorical monsters.
Sure is.
I would say. So should we just jump into it linearly, do you think?
I think let's just do this as we experienced it.
Although, you know, before you told us the story, what I did like about how, you know, we don't really have connections between our films, it was from the same year as Train to Busan. And it was also, I was looking for some kind of redemption parent story, but this came from, well, I thought it was going to be from the mother perspective rather than the Train to Busan from the father perspective. So when it started, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Same year, similar kind of thing.
Also, foreign films. Train to Busan is South Korean. This is a Canadian film.
It's true. Isn't that interesting that when we say foreign films, we just mainly mean in a language that we don't speak. But technically, as an Australian, the majority of movies I watch are foreign films.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Dave. I've never thought about that. We're very English-centric, aren't we, in our English world?
This movie was made by white people, or not.
Although you'll be delighted to know in this film, Sophie, I don't remember any of the characters' names either. So, you know, last week we were like, is this because it was Train to Busan and we were watching it in subtitles so you couldn't remember characters' names? I can't remember the characters' names for this film either.
The guy in the truck who first came to help them is called Jesse.
Oh, Jesse.
That's all I've got. I reckon. I think that's the only character name I have. I don't remember the two main characters, whom Dave will tell us about.
Yeah, like drunk mum and small girl. But anyway, Dave, on you go.
Very mature small girl. Sorry, Dave.
Very mature small girl.
So right at the start of the film, we've got this really nice opening montage, I think, of this little girl walking around a kind of apparently deserted house, and we're not sure what she's doing. She's kind of cleaning things up, and then we see her cleaning up bottles, and we kind of immediately get this sense, very nice visual storytelling of, oh, she's like the child of an alcoholic and she's cleaning up the house, which is a shambles. So we very clearly established where we are. And
I got confused for a second because there's a bit where when she goes into like the living room, she's got a suitcase with her, and I'm like, is she arriving or is she? So there was 1 second where I was like, I'm already lost and this movie has just started. But then I got right back on board. So yeah, she does have a suitcase, but that's explained in a second.
It does, because she's packed because she's going somewhere. So she goes to kick her mum out of bed because obviously her mum, as it turns out, is the alcoholic parent in question. Kicks her mum out of bed. It's clear that she's slept in.
She's like get up at 8. It's now 9. She's still not up.
The little girl has packed for both of them. She's clearly kind of the carer in this situation, and she's really keen to get going to where they're going, which is to meet their dad. I think it's not their dad.
Her dad.
Well, their dad. Her dad.
The small, the girl child's father.
Yes. Yeah. They're not plural. So we kick mum out of bed. Yeah. Now I'm going to get confused because this was a film that was interjected frequently with flashbacks.
Yes.
And I'm not going to remember where they go.
I might be able to help with that one.
Yeah.
Possibly. So
do we just get straight on the road here?
No, so we end up seeing the little girl watching TV and watching cartoons and trying to be a child, but not being able to be a child because her mum essentially had gone back to sleep. And so even though she tried to wake her mum up, it was even later.
Yeah, that's right.
Her mum was being a bit of a shambles, sort of trying to get her trousers on the sofa.
That's right, yeah, the mum sort of comes in and she's just like, look, I'm sorry. And this kid is just like, I'm watching cartoons now, like...
Playing with a lighter.
Yeah, just like, I'm not, exactly. Like, I'm not engaging. fucking get dressed. Like, I've been ready to go for hours. Like, stop pissing about. Yeah. So that's, and then we get on the road.
And then we
get on the road.
Yeah.
So we're on the road. Some stuff definitely happens in the car.
So there's some issues because she wants to smoke and her daughter won't allow her to smoke in the car. So basically stop breaks have to be scheduled for her to smoke.
Okay.
But even before that, there's an interesting bit where the girl has like a little teddy bear that sings. What song does it sing?
Oh, that's right. Almost as soon as in the car. Pop Goes the Weasel.
Yeah, Pop Goes the Weasel. It sings Pop Goes the Weasel.
And the mom says, you're too old for that toy. And the little girl says, you're too old for a lot of things, which is a good zinger.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Yeah, so we already flagged that there's like, obviously I think we know that the relationship is a little bit strained.
Yeah.
And then
the mother comes across, she's a young mother.
She's young. To the point where she
like multi-dyed hair and tattoos and
when the daughter first wakes her up, I thought, because there's a voiceover at the very, very beginning where it's like, mom told me like monsters aren't real, but like she wasn't, like that's not true or whatever, she was wrong. And when she wakes up the mother in like the first bit, I was like, is she staying with like a sister or something? Like that's genuinely, when I said I got confused about the suitcase for a second, I was like, is she the mother, there's something wrong with the mother and she's come to stay with the sister, but the sister's like a young alcoholic? And then I got back on board. But yeah, so you're right. So there's lots of stops, and is it at the first stop where the mum gives her the watch that
because they're also debating at one of the first stops whether they should have more stops and how long. So clearly they're driving quite a distance to take her to her dad's.
Hours and hours, long drive.
And ultimately the chat is, can we keep going? And basically, was it at that point the girl says that her dad's staying up, her dad and her dad's partner? But yeah, the mum gives the watch.
No, because it's still daytime. So they're at the gas station.
Yeah, and then she gives her the watch, and she goes, "Well, that's grandma's." And she's just like, and basically the mother suggests that like this girl is not coming. Like the reason that she's giving it to her now is because she's not coming back. Yeah. And like the daughter's like, "Well, I never said that," and the mother's like, "Yes, but you're not. Like you're clearly not coming back. This is you like moving back to your dad. I want you to have like this thing." And that's definitely like daytime. That's at the stuff at the gas station.
And this is a moment where like we described this relationship as being like very strained, but it's definitely strained. It's not broken.
It's not broken. It's just,
and the film does a really good job of maintaining that all the way through, I think, of this relationship that is like, she's clearly a bit of a broken human and is doing, by all like measurements, quite a bad job of raising her daughter. But at the same time, the relationship is not completely destroyed. Like there's still a mother-daughter relationship in there somewhere, and we see it from both of them, and that's done really, really well all the way through.
Because I think at this point is that when they flash back to like why there's perceived that she's not wanting to stay with her mum, and it's when she's supposed to be in a play, and her mum was to drive her to be in her play, but she didn't actually believe her mum would turn up. So her mum turns up in a car. So flashback, daughter's all ready to go, and her mum's like, "You're going to be late. We need to go." Her mum's all fitted and ready.
Yeah, the mum's like dressed.
Looking very fancy, very put together. But it's apparent she just doesn't want her mum to be there. So clearly there's already been this strain in the relationship. So in these little flashbacks, very, very brief flashbacks, they very much will set the scene as to like why this daughter doesn't want to be around her mum and that things have gone bad. So you get the impression that her mum is possibly embarrassed her, or she doesn't want her around. Things usually are chaotic when her mum's around, and then her mum tries to convince her anyway, says she's going to be late, and then takes it really badly, and then just starts swearing at her daughter.
Literally just like swearing to the point where I was like, I'm just going to turn the volume down slightly for this bit because someone is shouting swear words in my apartment right now.
Repetition of "fuck you" over and over and over again to her very small daughter, who I think,
how old is that kid meant to be, like 10 or 11 or something?
So I thought she was maybe 12, 13. I kept trying to do the maths in my head, but according to good old Wikipedia, she is supposed to be about 10. And so eventually, but like this little girl's kind of rising above it and clearly is more of the grown up in this relationship and has too much responsibility. And but then as her mum drives away, because she does give up and says, right, I'm not going in, she then says, fuck you. But it's clearly obviously quite upset about that interaction. But yeah, so then her mum gives her this watch, kind of.
So this is the setup. This is the setup as we have this.
Like acknowledging that it's not going well. You're going to go live with your dad. I'm driving you there. Like, let's do this thing.
So we're driving at night now. We're driving at night in the rain. We're driving in this old, like, it's like a Buick or a Lincoln or one of those American living rooms with wheels kind of cars.
Yeah.
And they hit an animal. They hit an animal. It looks like a wolf.
Just before that, sorry Dave to interrupt, the bit that I like just before that, which is just like this nice little bit of bonding, is where like the mother obviously wants to have a cigarette, and then it's like, as you said, like it's nighttime, it's raining, it's miserable, and then she asks the daughter, like, you know, can I basically smoke this? And the daughter like looks at her, she's like, crack the window. And I was that's not, I mean, it's fucked. Like, don't smoke in the car with your child. But like there was that nice kind of like this is, I think it was just like another testament to the fact that like this relationship still exists. It's just like it doesn't function well, but like it functions at a level where they've got this. But then anyway, so you're right, they hit.
But they'd also already had a chat to about whether or not they were going to stop anywhere, and her daughter had said, are you tired or whatever? And it was like, well, they knew they were going to arrive late, but she's like, my dad's staying up anyway, it's fine. So as long as you're not tired, like essentially let's just keep going. And then you're right, there's the smoke, and then also the weather gets really miserable. So it's dark, they're in the woods, the wolf or whatever creature we didn't know at that point comes running out, but it's just, so they're very isolated.
In fact, we kind of, we get an impact and then we have some skidding around and then we see the wolf, which is the first indication that something is a bit
weird, right? Because I actually rewinded it, because I was like, did I stop? I was like, did I miss the bit where it showed me what they hit? Because like in the beginning, it just looks like she skids and does all this stuff. Yeah. And then I realized it's like, no, you don't actually see a collision with the wolf. You see like basically the front of the car, like through the windscreen, but then the skidding starts. And then, you flash the wolf, and the wolf has these kind of like big, like blood marks on it, but is like standing up.
It's It's like, it's covered in blood, but it's standing. And then we kind of cut to black and we see the aftermath of the collision. So the mum is quite battered up. She's got a sore wrist. She's bleeding from the head. The little girl's quite upset. And then the car dies almost immediately. So the radio goes dead and they can't move. So they're stuck. So they call 911. Little girl calls 911 because she's responsible.
I think the mother does say, like, you have to call 911. There's a lot of, like, the mother getting the daughter to do things that I was like, I just feel like in that situation, my mother would have done that thing that she had the child to do. But gets the daughter to call 911.
Gets to call 911, so they get, they kind of give this rough description of where they are, but they're on this weird, fucked old road, and it's really hard to say where they are. Yeah, so it's really hard. So they send an ambulance and a tow truck. And so then they're just kind of hanging out. They give, so now the rain stops, which means we can go and call dad to say where we are and what's happening and tie up that loose end.
Who obviously quickly asks, was mother drunk?
Was your mom Stevie?
And that's why the accident occurred.
Yes. And then, but because the rain stops, we can get out of the car and we can have a look at the wolf.
But there's a weird thing, right, where the girl, like, she doesn't want to get out of the car because she can see the wolf, and then the mother's door is like jammed shut, so that she has to climb up. So basically, even the daughter's like, I don't want to get out of the car, the mother's like, we have to, like, you go first. But I just think, like, if that's a 10-year-old, that's traumatic. But like, I guess they had to get out of the car, but it was just that thing where it's just like, she didn't say, okay, well, like, hop in the back, I'll get out, and then follow me. She was like, get out of the car. I'll follow you.
You go first, kid.
Basically.
So we go and have a bit of a look at the wolf, and I don't think we poked the wolf, but
she picks up a tooth from the wolf.
Oh yeah, that's like
a very, very big tooth. Going, oh, that's interesting.
So then we go back to the car, and they have a conversation about it, and the mum remarks that some of the injuries the wolf sustained didn't appear to be from the crash, which seems like specialist knowledge to me.
That is like, that's true. I don't know what a wolf looks like when you've hit it.
No, I don't either. But maybe she's
Unless
done
it
that
had like,
before.
when someone gets bitten by a shark and they have like shark teeth marks out of the side.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if it had like really nice like jaw teeth,
I'd
be like, I'd be like, I don't think that's come from a car accident. But otherwise,
Or
like,
as you say, like if it is a slash, but then saying that she did find a big tooth on it. So I mean, where would that come from?
I mean, that's helping her, come to
in a
conclusions, right? Because she's gone like, look at this big tooth.
Look at this big tooth.
Well, she kind of says, she follows up, she says something to the effect of, oh, maybe birds came and started eating it after it died.
Yeah, it's weird.
Which is then weird because
it's raining really hard and there's no birds. And
what are these angry birds doing at nighttime?
I know. And it's like, Mom, you brought it up. Like, you're the one who's like, well, we hit it with a car, but that's not what it looks like when you hit a wolf with a car. But it's probably just birds. Like, this is the weirdest conversation ever.
Yeah.
So little girl's quite perceptive and says, well, like animals, like wolves don't have teeth like that. So it wouldn't be another wolf eating it. And then she has another look at the tooth, which is this big. I mean, it's huge.
It's like it is a big tooth. Like it is not if any land animal had that tooth, like it's big, like it's not even a lion tooth. Like it was huge and terrifying.
Yeah.
And at that point I was waiting for lots of, your Jurassic Parky moments because it had been raining, there were puddles, like I was stomped. Come on, I want to see this water movement. Yeah.
So I feel like at this point, Jessie turns up.
Yeah, so Jessie, the tow truck driver.
Jessie, the most important character in the film, denoted by the fact that we can remember his fucking name.
And I think it's just because they say his name a lot.
I couldn't remember his name.
Oh, really? Because I just feel like comparatively, I feel like the two main characters, like the mother and the daughter, don't use. I mean, obviously, like the daughter calls the mother mum.
Yeah.
But I feel like the mother doesn't use the daughter's name that often. Whereas for some reason, Jessie's name was used constantly. They just kept saying Jessie all the time. Blah, 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 Jessie, because I think she calls him like Mr. Tow Truck Driver, something like weird, and he's just like,
oh yeah, because she keeps saying,
Jessie.
Hey Mister, and he says Jessie. So you're right, he does say it a couple of times.
Yeah, so Jessie arrives and lets them know that he's heard from like dispatch or whatever, and that the ambulance has been delayed. Yes. So what they're going to do is they'll get all the stuff out of the car, put their stuff from the car, put it in his car, and then wait. But then they're going to tow.
Yeah, I got a bit lost that.
Okay, so
they want to be in their car, and so he has to do something because there's something the front of it's fucked up to attach the tow truck to their car.
So I think what happened is he's like, oh, let's put your stuff in my car, and then you can ride up there while we tow the truck.
Yeah,
I think makes the most
sense. And they were like,
I
think so. And then they're like, we want to go in our car.
Yeah. And then, they're like, can we ride back here? And he's like, yeah, cool. But then he says, I think the transaxle on the car is broken.
Yeah, because he does basically touch things and fix
So I think basically it's untowable. Is basically so all the stuff's been moved to the car, but that interrupting the towing process is the fact that this thing needs to be fixed before they go anywhere. Yeah. So we're now just sitting with their stuff in his truck.
He's under fixing.
Yeah.
And then our two protagonists are in the car.
Yes.
And then at that stage, it's flagged that they should call the father again, because like the last time they talked to him, they had had the car accident, but obviously this was like an update being like, let dad know when you're arriving. Then because the daughter had the mother's phone, and it turns out that the daughter put the phone in her bag, which is now in the car. So she has to, and so this is one of the bits where it's like go and get the phone. Like this is what the mother is saying to the daughter. I was like, it is nighttime. You've hit a wolf that the daughter has already flagged that she's a bit scared of, even though like it hasn't, you've established that it hasn't moved and nothing's happened, but she has like literally said that she is like kind of frightened of this wolf. Then you've gone like, it's raining, it's dark. Go outside, talk to the man that you've just met, who's essentially a stranger to you, into this like this area that you're not comfortable with, and tell him you need the phone. And I was a bit like, again, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know.
And also, had the wolf not disappeared as well by this point? And they're like looking at the road, and their wolf suddenly wasn't there anymore. And it's like, what happened? Well, someone made it dragged itself into the woods.
That's right. Yeah, they did flag that
it clearly, even when they saw it and it was like looking very dead, it clearly wasn't quite dead. So it dragged itself somewhere quiet.
So
not only, you're right, was there a stranger outside putting the thing in the car, the wolf had disappeared, they were a bit traumatized, but her mum was like, yeah, go get the phone, because you should tell your dad that we're going to be somewhere and he should come and get you there.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then she could continue with him, and eventually the mum would get back somehow in her own way. And yeah, poor little girl does get out of the car, and she's like,
that's
when
she
doesn't want to, but she does.
I was like, once and for all, I established that man's name is Jesse, because she kept calling him Mr. and he kept saying Jesse.
Yeah. Jesse. He's the only.
So then
he's the only character in the film that introduces himself.
It really, no, I think that's true, right? And then, so it goes out, and then it turns out, so it says to Jesse, look, I need the phone. It's in my bag. And he's like, oh, look, I'm almost done, but like, you can get it yourself. So then she approaches his truck and then like goes to open it and the door's locked. So she flags that to Jesse and is like, oh, like, I'm almost done. And then it's at that stage when she looks towards like where the wolf was, and she sees like blood into the woods and she follows it. Is that what she's following?
Yeah, she does. Yeah. Well, this is that rule in horror films that everyone in the horror film can't have seen a horror film ever.
Yeah, it's like,
So behavior like this is just normal. Like, you see a blood trail, you follow it. Like,
exactly. It's like such amateur behavior.
Doesn't matter what the music's doing, you just get on in there.
It's like, can't you guys hear that? There's a soundtrack to your lives, and right now it's very foreboding. Stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So we go and we see the wolf. She's like, oh, I found the wolf. And this is when we get our first kind of, we see her kind of face reacting to seeing this wolf carcass dragged off the road. And we get our first kind of out of focus look at this hulking, eponymous monster, or something behind her.
Yeah, behind her.
Yeah.
So she hasn't seen it, but
she's looking at the wolf, and then there's just it's that whole like in the background, like just this like creature rises, and you're like, oh shit. But
it vanishes.
It vanishes, fine.
Vanishes in fair, so it's all good. And now I've got a disconnect in my memory. Does she go back to the car?
She goes back to the car.
Yeah, because he says he'll give her the keys when he's done. Because she's like, oh, can I get the keys? And he's like, oh, like, I'm almost done here. I'll.
Or she starts shouting on her mum. She's like, Mum, I found the
wolf. When she's at the wolf, she's shouting for the mother, but the mother's inside the car with the door's closed, and also like vaguely talking to herself about something, I think. For a little bit, maybe. And then and so that's right. So then the daughter ends up back in the car.
And then they're both both the mom and the little girl are like, come on, Jesse. Hey, Jesse, let's get out of here. Meanwhile, Jesse is under the car, starts hearing some untoward noises.
Not good.
Shines his light from under the car, having a wee look. And we cut back to in the car, and they're both having a shout for Jesse. And it's like, where's Jesse? Where's Jesse? We don't know where Jesse is. And
he disappears, and eventually we get
do we go and have a wee look for Jesse? Do we go and have a look for him?
That's after. So isn't it? I thought they saw something, and then that's when they were shouting for Jesse, and then basically Jesse disappears.
And then the arm falls on.
And then the arm, So basically, there's but that's when the mother has gone. You're right. The mother has gone out to look for Jesse, because the daughter's in the car, and then basically what we have is Jesse's severed arm just kind of like hand plants on the windshield.
That's right.
And the mother's like out there, and then like sees. She doesn't see Jesse. She just sees the arm and just has like a bit of a scream. Gets back in the car, and then we
sees the arm. Does a bit of quick mathematics.
Goes,
yeah.
A hard pass, gets back in the car, and then we cut to kind of like Jesse armless, like on the ground, like trying to get back to the car.
Yeah, so he's trying to get to his truck, isn't he?
He gets his truck, and then it's like that thing where then he goes to open the door and the door's locked, and it's like, we have established this, Jesse. Asking for the key,
done it.
And then he just gets fucked up by the monster, right?
Yeah, because I like this bit because it was kind of, again, thinking about Train to Busan, it was kind of the opposite here, where actually it was the mother that wanted to go and help. She's like, we can't stand by and let this dude whatever happens. And the daughter's the one going, no, there's nothing, like, the daughter's like, we can't do anything.
She's like, leave him.
She's like, no, we need to go and help him. And the daughter's like, nope, you're not going out there. And so the monster appears and gets Jesse.
Yeah.
Poor Jesse.
And so then the mother and the daughter end up kind of cowering in the back of the car.
Very understandably.
And I know we were talking as well about various flashbacks and stuff, and I imagine it must be around about here there were some flashbacks, because again, this is where you say that you didn't think the relationship was beyond repair. They are, like, I mean, obviously traumatized by everything that's going on, but they are cuddling in the back. But and I think potentially around about that time we get a flashback to
yeah, I think you're right.
Some things that had happened in the past.
The mother is kind of like cuddling the daughter, and then is that when we get the flashback to like the mother, like super fucking drunk, the one where she stumbles to like the bathroom, throws up everywhere, like collapses next to the toilet bowl. That wakes the daughter up, and then she comes and sees her mother, sees the vomit in the toilet bowl, flushes the toilet, and then kind of like scooches down like next to her on the toilet floor and puts her arm around her to like
because there's some really nice there's some really nice moments in the flashback where, you know, there's 2 days crossed out in the calendar and you can do it, mom, written above it.
That's right.
And you then see the mother clearly trying to prevent herself from drinking, going, I could just do this, I can go back to bed, I can just do this, and then doesn't manage, and then it spirals into getting very drunk, very ill, and then so we've jumped from the mother comforting the daughter in the car to the daughter looking after her mum, who's, you know, in her underwear lying on the floor, and the daughter is just like making sure she's all right, because, you know, it's still her mum. And then
so we're in the car cowering. Mum kind of realizes that the ambulance is going to come. So she's like, we're saying to her daughter, like, the ambulance is going to come, so don't worry, like, we're going to be fine, just need to stay quiet.
Yeah, the monster doesn't know we're here, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And I think it's at this point she starts to reason, like, look, we need to go and look for Jesse's keys, see if we can get into his truck. Because if we can get into his truck, then we can get the hell out of here, right? That's what happens.
Yes, but I'm trying to think if it's at this point that the kid's stupid musical toy goes off again.
Could be.
Because the whole thing is, they've decided to do this. They're going to go and get away somehow. But then it's like, oh, the monster doesn't know we're here. We've been very quiet. We've not been doing anything. And then the kid's toy starts playing the music. And so we are here. We are here. But I think the ambulance must come not long after that.
So I remember. So they're in the car. They're just about to enact this plan when the monster actually attacks the car.
That's right. The monster attacks the car. Yeah.
Arming through the window, and
and it drags the mum out.
Yeah, mum gets chucked out of the car.
Yes, and it's like railing on the mother.
Yeah.
And then the ambulance arrives, and then the daughter has like come out and is just like, "Mum, hold on," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, like help is literally like just approaching.
Yeah. So ambulance turns up, which is
great because the monster disappears at that point.
Yeah, the monster's like, do you know what I hate? An ambulance. These paramedics, don't get me started. I'm going back into the woods.
Do you know what I hate? People who have more medical training than most people, but not as much as doctors. That really gets me.
Where do you even sit in society? I don't understand. I'm an angry monster. I'm going back to the wolf. I've left a chunk of wolf there. I'm going to have a nibble.
Your van is so noisy.
Yeah.
It's so noisy and bright.
We're having a nice quiet time in the rainy woods. So
just trying to eat this mom.
A woman, you've ruined it. Yeah.
So ambulance turns up. She gets chucked in the back, as you'd hope, gets hooked up to an IV. While the other paramedics go and have a little like wander around outside, and
the woman and the girl, it's like we gotta go. Like,
and the mother is like, says to her daughter, like, please close the doors because the back of the ambulance is still open. She had just been attacked by a monster. Please close the door. And the one paramedic's still waiting to drive away, but they're waiting for the other one. That
one's walking around with a flashlight and then does see Jesse, what is left of Jesse, and then does flag that we need to like contact animal control, but doesn't go like, this man has been savaged by an animal. These people are terrified of being savaged by an animal. I best get on my horse and like, let's like skedaddle out of here. It's just like, I'm just walking around in the, like on the road near the woods, and someone got fucked up by an animal so badly that they're very, very dead and their arm isn't attached. And this person doesn't go like, we need animal control. And then like, yeah, go back to, they're just still standing there.
Yeah.
That made me a bit angry.
Again, people that haven't watched horror films
Never seen a
or,
horror
you know,
film.
like, you know, it's fine. They're totally fine.
They have like no intuition
Yeah.
at all.
So they both quickly get killed.
They get eaten pretty
Yeah.
rapid.
But then what happens is then the guy who was in the car, doesn't he go to look for, because he's like, where is she? Goes to look for this other woman. This other woman in the meantime has come back and got in the front of the car, been like, oh, like, where's the other guy? And they're like, well, he was looking for you. Other guy gets fucked up. And then basically it looks like, and then it's this weird thing.
I think there were 3 of them.
Oh, were there? I think I got lost in the night.
I think there's 3 of them. I think there's a
Oh, there was
dedicated
2.
driver. I think there were 2 men and a
Okay.
lady.
I thought there was one man and a lady.
Mm.
I'm not sure. You could be right.
I thought
Anyway,
there were 2, but I got
but
confused.
those-
Anyway,
yeah,
they all die.
They all
Like,
died.
2 or 3 of them die.
They all
There's a
died.
bit
So
where we've only got the woman left. She's in the
Yeah.
front. And then it's kind of thing where she's obviously gone like, shit is fucked up. And then like, is like,
one of
on
the
the
paramedics.
roof, or as it goes around the front, and she's like, and I was like, just drive. Why are you waiting?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Listen,
this is bad. And she's like,
One of the
"I'm-"
paramedics gets chucked against the windscreen, smashing it.
Yeah.
So she kicks it out so she can drive off. But then we hear the monster on the roof of the ambulance.
That's right. And she doesn't drive. She just sits
Yeah.
there going like that, like, and because you see the monster's progression because it's very heavy.
Yes.
It's walking on, and it's like, go, just go.
We haven't
she-
mentioned, we've actually had a bit of a look at the monster by this point, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it
and
looks
it's just
like
kind of
alien.
So shiny black
very shiny.
with very big teeth.
It
very
looks
big
like the
teeth.
love child of Alien and Venom.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
a nice way of putting it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's this kind of gorilla-esque thing. Not as overtly sexual as Alien, but still very shiny.
Very
And
good.
I think it's a good point to talk about this because I was really, really enjoying the film until we saw the monster. I think, you know, I really like
like the tension,
suspense and the
knowing-
tension,
yeah,
and
knowing the monster's there, but
and
not
I
actually.
didn't really want to see it as much, but I didn't even mind it so much when it was a kind of shadow behind the girl. But as soon as you kind of show me a monster, I'm a bit like,
I think no, you're right. It ruins the illusion because the monster you see is never as scary as the monster you're imagining, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like when you see it, you're just like, oh, and the first thing I went, oh, it looks like Alien and Venom had a baby. And like it just, and I was like, oh, there you go. Whereas when it was even, you said like, is it so you can sort of see its form kind of when it was in the background and like rises up behind her. And even then that's still, you're like, oh God, there's a monster, get out of there, what's going to happen? Whereas now it's like, well, now I know what it looks like and its face is a bit silly to me.
and I was like, no, it's not a T-Rex. I think that's my other issue. I don't know. I think because maybe I watched Jurassic Park a few weeks ago, I was like, yeah, there's still something about the T-Rex. So look, yeah, the scary face, scary teeth was clearly kind of badass and killing everyone. But yeah, that was when I think the film started to lose me a little bit. Because I liked a lot of the mother monster, scary monster, other side of it, because there was also, and I can't remember when that flashback occurs, but when we flash back to the daughter hiding in a tent and like
when we find out
something in the house.
Was bad as well, because I was like, hold on, what? The dad is bad as well, but then I guess the dad is now good. And
well, I didn't know if it was the dad. I'd assumed it was just a boyfriend of.
Oh, that was Ray. No, that was Ray. That was
Ray. You're right. It was the
the
boyfriend.
frequently referred to Ray, who is a
did know that.
Yeah. So she'd hidden their something.
Car keys.
Car keys. That's what it was. And so he came down to shout at her, and then you think the mum's going to defend her, and the mum's actually just part of shouting at her. So it's all very, very traumatic. So like that bit was still scaring me probably more than said monster. So like those bits still got me, like the mother-daughter. But I think roundabout from the ambulance scene, I was a bit like, oh, this isn't what I wanted this to be. So anyway, all of the medical team, the paramedics,
they're dead.
The mother's bashed up, but ready to try and get out of here.
Yeah, it jumps very rationally, jumps in the front seat of the ambulance, starts driving.
At least doesn't make the child do it this time. Drive the car.
Yeah. Get us out of here. Put the pedal to the metal. Yeah, so getting out of there, but the monster attacks the ambulance. So they're screaming out of there.
Very fast. It's
slams into the side of the ambulance and it goes flying off the road. Everyone's had a terrible time. So I got a little bit confused here. So at this point, it seemed like the mum reckons she's going to die.
Yeah, so I think because the mother
it's throwing up blood or something.
Yeah, because she's vomiting up blood. I assumed her assumption is like, I have internal bleeding, which is like not good. And since no one's coming to like help ASAP, most likely I will die very soon, is how I interpreted them.
And they also had that moment. And while they're cowering in the back of the ambulance, the monster seems to be coming towards them or something, but it disappears because of the torch.
Yeah, so we learned that the monster doesn't like light.
Doesn't like light.
That's when we established the monster doesn't like light. Yeah, so the idea is that the mother's like, I'm about to die. The monster doesn't like light. I can basically like create a diversion so you can like get to the road and like get out of here.
Yeah, and then we have kind of an interesting moment here, I thought, where the little girl's like, stop lying to me, because the mother's like, oh, the monster doesn't like the light, so it'll be scared of the light, so I'm going to create a distraction and you can run to the road, and
then I'll follow you or something. Like I think she was like,
I'll follow you because the monster doesn't like the light. You know how that's why we have night lights, because it scares the monsters away.
Yeah, and that's the kids like
stop lying to me, like I've seen too much.
Yeah, exactly. I'm no child anymore, thanks to you.
I've seen too much. And the mother's like, yeah, I am lying to you. I'm going to die, but I need you to get out.
Yep.
Which was an interesting moment. That's not a moment that I think I've seen before in a movie. So I thought that was
not like a horror movie.
No. So I quite enjoyed that. So sure enough, she gets some gauze and wraps it around a bit of a pole and soaks it in ethanol. And makes herself a wee torch, and off she goes into the woods.
Trusty lighter comes useful.
So, and I actually thought, well, no, we'll get on to that. So she's got the wee torch on, and she goes out into the woods, and she can kind of hear it, and she knows it's there, and she has a wee shout at it, and then she extinguishes her torch in this moment of self-sacrifice.
Yes.
And sure enough, monster does come and have a wee nibble at her.
Yeah.
Nibble and more.
But isn't that when the girl child then just like comes and like rails on the monster?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So the little girl really was not happy with her mum's plan at any point in any of this. Did not want it to happen.
I don't think she actually went, yes, let's do that. Like, I don't say, did she say like, yes, this is the plan we'll do? She just, like,
so she wasn't even from things ready to run. She wasn't going. It was just like, shit, my mum is just going to die. I don't really know what to do about this. You're right. Then the little girl goes badass.
Rails on the monster.
With like a hammer or something? Like she has a hammer or something?
She has a hammer.
Yeah.
So monster runs away, I guess, but then she goes back to the ambulance.
Yeah.
And she has a wee hide inside.
Yes, I think that's
Yeah,
she has a wee hide inside the cabinet of the ambulance, which is upended, but not before she has her toy, the one that makes the loud noises, and she sets it off. She sets it off.
Is it before that she has the flashback that then confused me heaps, because it was like the daughter and the mother, and I was like, hold on, did the mother not die? And then I was like, oh, it's a flashback. This is not happening in real life, where they have the moment where she's like in bed and the mother's come in next, like lying next to each other, and they have a chat about something, and now I have no recollection of
no, you're right, because there is the chat. I don't know if it's right about that, but basically that her daughter is going to be a better person than she is. There is that moment right at the end of the film where
she sets the bear off. I think like she's gone back in there, and then she's like having a cry, and like she lies down, and then it cuts to this other thing, and that's when I was like, what, the mother survived? And I was like, no, it's well lit and everyone's clean. This is in a different timeline.
No, so it was this point of the mother had clearly in that scene realized that she wasn't getting better, and that her daughter was having to do too much for her and look out for her, but wanted to reassure her daughter that essentially things will be better because her daughter was not her.
Yeah, like you're not me. And then back to Dave the toy. That's what we're up to.
So at this point, the toy goes off and the monster comes and attacks the toy for a wee bit. So little girl sees her opportunity, gets out. She's got a spray can
and the lighter.
Did she set this up, or is it all like I'm gonna do? Because I don't know. I felt
I
like
wasn't sure if it was set up or if she was improvising.
Yeah.
Because I thought she did like the toy like as the bait, and then because she was like all ready, so I just assumed that this.
Yeah,
was,
no,
like,
I thought she saw this.
She was
and
just
worked
like, I'm
out what
gonna.
she
She's
was
like,
do.
because the mother was like, you're gonna be a better person than me. You're gonna be fine. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna be fucking fine. Like, kill this motherfucking monster using my
We've got an aerosol can of something and the Zippo lighter, which we've established in a previous scene. She knows how to use.
Yes.
And monster comes at her, so she sets it on fire. And so I had actually thought this was Mum's plan because Mum had a torch and a bottle of alcohol, and I was like, Mum, you've got yourself a flamethrower there. Like, this is a great plan. And judging by the fact that she can identify animal wounds on another animal and also know when she's about to die from her symptoms, you know, that ethanol is flammable and can be used as a flamethrower is like something I might have hoped from her. So I thought that was flamethrower, but I was pleased because there was ultimately a flamethrower in the film.
And it was just a slightly different mechanism by a different character, but still existed.
So she gives it a good scoosh, and it really goes up. This is a flammable monster. This monster
real,
was ready to burn.
There's something flammable about the shiny, you know?
There was also something that kind of made me chuckle in that scene, in that there was something about the way the monster was standing that made it look kind of like it was a bit of a tent. And I was like, well, yeah, tents are fairly flammable. So yeah, I told you as soon as the monster was there, I was like, my disbelief, even though, you know, I'm fine with it being a monster. It almost had like a weird wingy thing. And so I was like, yep, that tent went on fire. Yeah, it did.
Like,
that is where my brain went.
Sets fire to the monster, falls to the ground, apparently dead. We have our obligatory final jump scare where it's not quite dead and she bashes it to death with a stick.
Like, I'm just like, this 10-year-old, like, I mean, if I was 10, I'd be like crying in a corner, being like, someone come on, like, I'd be dead so long ago. Whereas,
as Dave said, she'd seen so much already. She'd seen so much, and she was clearly being made to do so much.
Beat it to death.
Like,
beat its last ounce of life out of it with like a big stick.
So basically, and then we see, so the film, we didn't say, but the film kind of starts with this monologue about how her mum had said there were no monsters, but she was wrong. And then we see her exiting the woods, and there's another monologue about how there are no monsters, but she was wrong, and you don't know where they're going to be. Sometimes they're in the dark and sometimes they're in the light, but they're always there, basically. So I think the point of the film was that the little girl could survive her mother so she could survive this. Seemed to be the point of the film. I mostly liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I
agree. I think I agree with you, Karen. I think once we got to the point where we'd seen the monster, a lot of like not the horror elements, but like the scariness for me disappeared. I mean, I didn't find any of it particularly scary, but then it's because I've been desensitized. But yeah, I think like once that had happened, it's like, okay, I know. And then it's like, okay, how does this play out? Like, that was kind of what I was waiting for. But I think like on average, like I very much enjoyed it. And I did really like that, you know, we've talked about this before, there's a lot of movies that the way they, like horror movies, the way they start is quite interesting. And like the beginning of that movie, except for the fact that there's that monologue at the beginning where they talk about monsters, there's really nothing that suggests it's a horror movie.
No, exactly.
Until it becomes nighttime and the weather's fucked and they're driving on like a deserted road, right? And that's like quite a bit into it.
It's like 45 minutes in. Like everything is going to plan for quite a long time given the length of the film.
Yeah. And the other thing we were saying a lot watching it is it's a beautifully shot film.
Yeah, it was a beautiful
really
film. Pretty.
And yeah, when they were in the woods and you weren't really seeing the monster, like it was great. And I really liked the characters. I did like the mother-daughter character. I did like their little moments that at times seemed unnecessary, but you know, like they both had their little hand fidget thing that they both did. So it was like, even when, so at the start of the film, when they're clearly, their relationship's not there, whatever, she's still clearly her daughter. Like, and they made it her have some behaviors like her mother, not to the point of alcoholism, but like the hand gesture and whatnot. And so it still was building this really nice relationship between them, and that there was this connection. And yeah, like I did find I felt for both of them, and I think
I agree, yeah.
you know, it could have been so easy to set up the mother as such as the other monster, right, and just have her completely as the monster, and you know, just can totally be rooting for the girl to get through. But like through the flashbacks, you could see just how hard it was. So I think they did quite a lot. And again, you know, I love an hour and a half movie. I think they did quite a lot with brief shots for the hour and a half to keep it.
I agree, yeah, and I think you're right. I think they were both really sympathetic characters, and so even though like there are all these issues with the mother, and it like becomes very apparent very, very quickly, you're right. It's like you wanted them both to. It wasn't just like, well, I hope the girl gets away, and like whatever, that woman's terrible. You genuinely hoped that they both got out.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you're right, because it was only an hour and a half, but there's a lot, you know, like, yeah, those little flashbacks were very well put together.
And I think you're right, like the message her getting away, because I kept waiting for it to go into the mother is going to finally be the mother she needed to be. And I know to some extent she does, because she does sacrifice herself, but really not amazingly well, and not in a way that actually did save her daughter. And so it did all come back to the daughter to look after herself as she'd always been doing.
Yeah.
And I think that was less predictable to me than having the mother go, all right, finally, like
just a straight redemption arc.
Yeah, I thought it would be the straight redemption. And like I think in some ways, like you say, that thing with the daughter just went all badass and looked after herself.
The mother's ineptitude is the thing that has made the daughter have to be like quite capable, like for her entire life. And it was kind of even the same thing. Like her mother's like, you know, best intentions, trying really hard, really fucks up the big like gesture. And then like, yeah, the daughter has to like basically deal with it herself anyway again. But now she's like very prepared to kind of do that.
Yeah. To deal with monsters, as it were.
Yeah, to do with monsters, as it were. So yeah, I thought it was like good. I feel like I think it was like interesting enough that like, although it wasn't like my favorite movie ever, like I feel like this could be like a JP recommendation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Would we send this one to JP?
I think so, because I don't like he wouldn't have seen this one, I don't think, because it was if it's obscure enough that like it's on one streaming service that he doesn't have, I would say that like, yeah, he hasn't seen it. I think he would like, I want to write it down.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, no, I didn't love it like I love Train to Busan.
Yeah, for sure.
But I liked a lot of it, probably apart from the monster.
Yeah, I liked a lot of it. I thought the relationship at the center of it was perfect.
Yeah.
Really, really well done. And I thought both the main actresses were wonderful, but the little girl, whose name is Ella Valentine in real life, is just great in this film.
She's sensational.
Yeah,
she was so good. And I think it is like anytime there's like a horror movie where like I didn't hate it, like I actually thought it was quite well done. I think that's actually quite hard to do.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like of all the horror that I watch, more often than not, you're like, oh, ooh.
Yeah,
whereas,
I think you're right. I think I'm being too hard on it just because of the monster, which is possibly unfair because...
no, I mean, you can still be like, yeah, the monster then made it something that was slightly different for me. But the fact that, yeah, you even said on average, I did really like this movie. That's like, I think it's quite hard to make a horror movie where people say that at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So next week is your choice, Sophie. So what are we going to do? Have you got the spreadsheet?
I will get it right now. Just going to go into my Google Drive.
Google?
My G Drive, as I like to call it. So
G
horror movie club.
G Drive.
So
G Drives for the horror films, Shayla.
G Drive. All right, guys. So are you in the mood for? Oh, okay. Oh dear. So what we have is old. Karen, you've recently watched Black Christmas, haven't you? I think you sent me a text about it at some stage.
It wasn't from 1974, though.
Okay, then maybe.
I watched something like that, but it was a modern thing.
Oh, did you watch the 2019 one? Oh, okay. I haven't seen the 2019
Oh,
one. I've only
okay.
seen the 1974 one. Anyway, so 1974 Black Christmas is, I presume, the original.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought we'd watched the same thing because of the way we were sharing stories. But yeah, I watched a recent one.
And then we've got, so The Conjuring was just because you guys hadn't seen it, because I am like, as much as that series is like a little bit naff, I also do love it in my heart. The Lodge is a newish one. That was one that I saw. That was the last one that I saw before going into lockdown last year at the cinema, I mean. So that's the locate, like isolated location, kids,
I think,
stepmother.
I think I wanted to see that one too, but I never got around to it. I know the one
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Because then I was going to say, then The Children, The Bad Seed, The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake and Rasputin, The Mad Monk are all old. And then A Tale of Two Sisters is Korean, I think. So basically I've got one creepy Asian, I've got two newer ones, and then the rest of them, as I said, like I just filled out my list with like old horror because we realized that we hadn't embraced that. And I think that's possibly why I had Black Christmas 1974, because I was talking about the old one, not the new one. But I like, what do you feel like? Do you feel like foreign? Do you feel like newish? Or do you want something old and strange? And then there's a subset in old and strange, just old and strange, or old and strange with children that kill people. Because there are weirdly, there's only two of those in there now. Yeah.
Oh, both the ones recently have been fairly modern. Not, I mean, within the last 5 years. So maybe we go old. Want to choose an old one?
Okay, so I'm gonna give. Okay, now this is hard. So do we want ghosts? Do we want creepy children? Do we want?
What do you think? Well, just
pick one. Pick one you want to watch, Sophie. Come on,
Okay,
we're all on lockdown here. What do you want to see?
What have I not watched for the longest time? Let's do that one. Okay, this is I don't know if like for these. So I was gonna say The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, but it is like, I think it's like 1930s. Like, let me just. I think it's like.
That's fun.
Let's do it.
It's very old. Let me just Google it. It was my brother bought it for me on VHS for. No, it's not. It's 1959. How insulting, Sophie. But yeah, so it's black and white, and it's about voodoo, and I have not watched it for years and years and years, and it might be culturally very offensive by now.
Brilliant.
Okay, let's do it.
Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, 1959. But yeah, I think maybe Seb found like so when you go like to the video shop and they just have like old stuff that no one's interested in on sale, and it'll be like $3 for. I assume that's how this Christmas present was purchased for me. But yeah, I remember really liking it. So this will be an interesting one, because I feel like a lot of I saw this years ago. Does it hold up? And 9 times out of 10 it doesn't. And this is at a completely different level, because this is when like horror was like, it was horror themes. Potentially it would have been scary if we lived in like 1959, but it definitely is not even vaguely frightening in this day and age. And then also, yeah, offensive potentially. So good.
Good choice, Sophie.
Into it.
We'll find it.
Oh dear.